Chapter 17. Music and Education. Music resembles poetry. In each are nameless graces which no methods teach, and which a master hand alone can reach. Pope. It is sometimes amazing to grown-up people to find to what a degree imagination is developed in the minds of children. This is especially noticeable in their play. In the enjoyment of relaxation, one would think that there would not be much mental activity, and yet that picturing faculty of mind is awakened them to such a degree that one innovation after another is made a part of the play. And there is a spontaneousness about it that is seldom, if ever, found among grown-up people. Many parents try to discourage the growth of imagination in the mind of the child. Often they look upon it as a lack of truth when the little one tells of a wonderful thing seen or heard. Because of the discouragement children receive from their parents and later from their school teachers, the imagination which once lived in their minds is either dulled or ceases to be, and the idealistic, imaginative child grows into the prosaic, materialistic man or woman. So little appreciation have we for the greatest faculty of mind we are endowed with. Said Napoleon Bonaparte, imagination rules the world, and, beyond all question, he must have lived in his imagination. The great battles he fought and the great victories he won, long before they were either fought or won. The imaging faculty comes into play in planning and giving form to whatever we intend to do, before ever we begin doing the outer work. If this faculty can be developed so as to picture in the clearest, most concise and thorough way the things that one wishes to do, then each thing one tries to do will be done, not only in the shortest time, but in the best possible way. In our kindergarten schools, there is put forth an effort to develop imagination in the minds of the children, but the training of the imaging faculty ends with the ending of that brief stage in education, and the steps that follow in the higher education do far more toward deadening the imagination than ever it was quickened under the kindergarten training. The real elements of education are too often lacking in our schools, colleges, and universities. Education becomes largely a matter of cramming the mind with some things that are useful, but also with a great deal that never has had or can have any real value to the one who may have acquired it. Into every life is written divine knowledge as to how that life is to be lived so as to bring to the one living it the full development of every power and every possibility that is potentially resident in it. Real knowledge of life consists in man coming to know himself, in man becoming acquainted with what he is and what he desires to be. Education should have for its object the revelation of man's hidden knowledge and the calling out of this inner power. The materialism of both the past and present have so interfered with natural living that the greatness of life has been overshadowed by what we might call the bigness of things. Apparently, every country has at one time or another to pass through a state where bigness comes before greatness. We have our big country, our big universities, our big trusts, our big canals, our big railroads, our big buildings, but they are all big rather than great. Ancient Greece was far more concerned in having things great, in endowing them with a beauty that would awaken and kindle the imagination of man, so that still greater excellence and beauty should be the natural outcome of their work. The soul and mind of man are not automatic machines for the reception of 1,000 or 1,000,000 facts. All the outer should be made to serve in calling out that which man already possesses, but is unable to use because he has placed so many obstructions in the way of his using it. If he could carry into his mature life something of the spirit of the child that lived in his early life, many of the problems which in the present remain unsolved would have been solved long ago. It was because the Greeks were able to do this that they were able to work out a democracy the like of which never existed before, so far as we know, and has never been duplicated since. We may well ask the question, what made that one small country of ancient times superior to any other from whatever point of view we choose to look at it? Because of its ideals. Its ideals ruled its world. Everything in order to be good must be made to disclose the beautiful. Beautiful living ideals conceived in the mind of her greatest people found their true expression in the many and varied forms of her creative arts. Back of all her ideals, there must have been something even greater than the ideals themselves that caused the ideals to blossom in mind. There are many people living today who do not look upon the Greeks as having been a strictly religious people, but the tree is known by its fruits, and the fruits of the tree are but outer manifestations of the inner life. So it must be equally true that all the many, varied, and beautiful forms expressed by Greek art were due to an invisible life of which the outer forms constituted only the product or fruit. Back of it all was the underlying rhythm or feeling that lived in Greek consciousness, and the outcome of it was the real music of life made manifest through beauty of form. As far as we know, the ancient Greek people, with the possible exception of the ancient Egyptians, were really the only people who used music as a fundamental necessity to right living. Music and education, music and the drama, music and architecture, in fact, music as the one supreme underlying factor in life. Some of our own philosophers have had visions or dreamed dreams of music, not only entering into human life, but also finding expression through the human mind in outer forms. Emerson wrote, "There is no architect can build as the muse can. She is skillful to select materials for her plan, slow and warily to choose rafters of immortal pine, or cedar incorruptible, worthy her design. She lays her beams in music every one, to the cadence of the whirling world which dances round the sun, that so they shall not be displaced by lapses or by wars, but, for the love of happy souls, outlive the newest stars." The Anglo-Saxon race, as represented by the United States, England, and her colonies, have done comparatively little in the way of creative music. In fact, these countries have had the power of expression through many other avenues that would make for world power and riches, yet in the higher idealism and beauty of life, so far, they have largely failed. If an individual or a nation chooses to make material gain and wealth the chief end and purpose of life, and works perseveringly with that end in view, the individual or the nation will succeed. Men cannot worship God and mammon. The individual or the nation that chooses, first of all, to live its highest ideals to the full, may lose something of worldly riches and power, but will gain infinitely more in what may be termed the true growth and development of life. Perhaps the time will come when, satisfied with the accumulation of material wealth, the Anglo-Saxon people, as represented by the countries referred to, will come to see that mere wealth or power over other people does not compensate for what they are losing in 100 other ways. We have had few great prophets of music because, through materialistic thought and expression, we have made it impossible for a prophet to arise under such conditions. Our civilization of the present bears no kind of comparison to the civilization of ancient Greece. We are behind them in everything save in the power to accumulate material riches. And even those seem to serve no good end, because people who own riches are filled with worry and anxiety in their efforts to retain them, and others who are not in possession of them are equally anxious and worried in their desire to gain them. So on every side, capital and labor, instead of cooperating, are in a state of antagonistic opposition to each other. Class is arrayed against mass, and mass is arrayed against class. And because of this, we can have no true idealism wherein man will work for the good of his fellow man, or wherein the many will work for the good of the needy ones. How can music, which is the very soul of life, express itself under such conditions? We may give of our wealth and bring the singer or the instrumental musician from other lands to cheer and brighten our lives for a little time, when we are not engaged in a life and death struggle for pounds or for dollars, but we are unable to present the right conditions for the development of our own people who might become great composers, singers, or instrumental musicians. Because London and New York can pay large sums of money for opera and other musical entertainments, both cities have it. But both cities are lacking in a musical or a thoroughly artistic atmosphere of any kind. The consequence of all this is that our people who would like to take up music or art are compelled to go to the countries that still continue to love art for its own sake. And the people who have no desire for art in any form stay at home and ridicule those who have some little God-given desire to express something of their own soul life. This may seem like a strong indictment. Nevertheless, it is absolutely true, and no class of people knows it so well as the musicians, painters, and other artists, who are struggling to present higher ideals through their work, and yet are meeting with discouragement on every side. In the educational world, comparatively little is being done to awaken the inner life so that the imagination may be quickened. All the qualities which go to make men and women of true refinement lie dormant in the life of student and teacher alike, and men and women are becoming as automatic as the machinery they have to manipulate. The civilization of today has given us our railroads, our great steamships, our telephones, wireless telegraphy, and all kinds of mechanical contrivances for labor saving, but it has not given that impulse which makes for happiness or joy of living, nor that idealism which uplifts man above the world and the things of the world and makes him a godlike being. This civilization of today has not kindled that love of beauty so necessary to all true development. The civilization of today has built structures of iron, stone, brick, and mortar, higher than the ancient Tower of Babel. Its materialism reaches almost, as it were, to the heavens, as though it were possible for a man to climb heavenward in this way. And the souls and bodies of men have been destroyed in order to establish a civilization that is utterly without a soul. We often hear people express themselves concerning soulless corporations, but the little corporation only symbolizes that vast corporation which we call civilized society. A stream cannot rise higher than its source, and if the source has its rise in iron and stone, mortar and brick, then the whole structure is of the earth earthy. Deplore it as we will, the facts remain the same, and the foundation upon which this structure rests is made up of the souls and minds and bodies of men, women, and children. It is really terrible to think of, but it is terribly and awfully true. And if the society and civilization of today be truly a representation of Christian thought, then the sooner we find our way back to the thought and feeling of ancient, pagan Greece, the sooner shall we become godlike men and women. Even if our eyes and our ears and our minds were opened so that we could see and hear and know, it would not be possible for us to lead ideal lives in this present generation. The subconscious mind of society is so steeped in the materialism of the past and present that it would literally be held in bondage to it, whether it wished to or not, and our greatest hope could only be for the rising generation and the generations yet to come. But all this should be no reason why the idealist and the lover of beauty should refrain from trying to bring spiritual uplift to the world. No, the condition of things as presented makes it imperative on the part of those who know to bring all they have of the inner riches of life to overcome the darkness and poverty of materialism, and to try to make this world a better place to live in than it is. This is the night of the world, but joy cometh in the morning. The morning of the new day may not come in this generation, but men and women who have the love of humanity at heart may hasten its coming through wisely directed effort to implant idealistic thought and develop musical feeling in the minds and hearts of the little ones, thereby laying the foundation upon which will be erected the real temple of God, which shall be a true expression of universal music. Truth is within ourselves. It takes no rise from outward things, whatever you may believe. There is an inmost center in us all where truth abides in fullness. To this end, then, cultivate imagination in the mind of a child, in such a way as to direct its imaging power into the most beautiful channels. Impress the mind of the child with the thought that his ideals take form in his mind, and help to shape his life and the things he does in life. Explain to him how a painter makes his beautiful pictures, that first of all he has a canvas and paints of different colors, and if he is painting a landscape, with the use of his eyes and mind, he gets a mental picture of what he wants to depict on his canvas. Then he takes his brush, using some colors alone, mixing other colors, and he combines all these to make a picture that looks like the one he is now seeing. And after a time, the painter has finished his picture, and later he begins to paint still another one, and so his work goes on. If he desires to do better all the time in his work, each picture he paints makes it possible for him to paint a better one next time. Tell the child that he too is painting a picture of life by using his heart and mind, and if he puts love and kindness, goodwill and joy and gladness into his picture, and if he tries to live all he is doing, then he is giving expression to a true picture of life. The child may ask how he can give expression to his picture, and you can tell him through kind words, through generous acts, even through the pleasant look or smile, that in this way he is just as truly giving expression to his picture as the painter does with his brush and colors. By using such illustrations, the child becomes more interested and more likely to follow your suggestion, and the story part of it aids in awakening the imagination in a healthy way. Children often have unhealthy imaginings, and frequently it is found that they are caused by the nurse or others who have the care of them telling them gruesome stories and filling their minds with unreal fears, so that they are stimulated in a false rather than in a true way. Talk to children about nature, of how the plants grow, and the trees blossom and produce fruit. Or one may talk in an intelligent way to a child about music, and how even a child life may become musical. Explain to the child how rhythm makes everything beautiful, and how easy it is through the use of rhythm to work and to play, and how it produces a soothing influence of mind and keeps his body in a restful condition. Tell him to listen to the running of the brooks, the singing of the birds, and to hear the beautiful melodies that are to be found in both. That if he will only listen with his ears, he will find wonderful melodies coming from nature that possibly no one has ever heard before. Explain to him how rhythm and melody are of his soul and mind, but that he has to make harmony in his outer world, and that harmony comes through adjusting his little life to the lives of his playmates and others with whom he may be living, and that all real music has in it rhythm, melody, and harmony. In this way you will get him interested in music more quickly and help to lay a sure foundation for his life. One of the world's greatest philosophers, Plato, has said that music is a moral law. It gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, a charm to sadness, gaiety and life to everything. It is the essence of order and leads to all that is good, just, and beautiful, of which it is the invisible, but nevertheless dazzling, passionate, and eternal form. To know, rather consists in opening out a way whence the imprisoned splendor may escape than in effecting entry for a light supposed to be without. Let the composer of the present cease catering to the morbid, gloomy, vicious, and materialistic thought, and sing his song of hope that shall gladden and rejoice the minds of those who are able to receive it. Let the singer and the instrumentalist give of their very best, selecting such compositions as will inspire to courage and everything that is grand and beautiful. Let all those idealists who can form in mind a true appreciation of the world's needs, in so far as in them lies, bring of the best they have to satisfy a real hungering and thirsting after the ideal. Because the world is hungering and thirsting, and this is typified the world over by unrest. O music, sphere-descended maid, friend of pleasure, wisdom's aid, why, goddess, why, to us denied, layest thou thy ancient lyre aside, as in that loved Athenian bower you learned an all-commanding power? 'Tis said, and I believe the tale, thy humblest reed could more prevail, had more of strength, diviner rage, than all which charms this laggard age. O bid our vain endeavors cease, revive the just designs of Greece, return in all thy simple state, confirm the tales her sons relate. The world is seeking to find something that will satisfy, and in the end such a quest shall not prove in vain. The world of nature is filled with grandeur and beauty of every kind and description, but man can only appreciate this as he unfolds to the great and the beautiful that exists in his own life. Only then will come the full recognition of that which is grand and beautiful in nature. The real education is the unfolding or becoming conscious of our God-given qualities, the becoming enlightened by the spirit of love and wisdom, so that the mind becomes filled with a new and living idealism. And this idealism, in turn, is expressed in all man's outer work. Living such a life is music from first to last. Music that makes for the real rhythm, melody, and harmony, or the full measure of a man. The letter kills, the spirit alone gives life. The world has lived the letter too long. It has brought no real profit. Let it begin to live the life of the spirit, and we shall have a new renaissance that will bring with it all that goes to make life worth living. The 9 muses will bring of their hidden riches and bestow them on the world, possibly even in a greater measure than may have been done in the past. And the world will pass from darkness into light, and the whole earth will rejoice and be glad. End of chapter.